but it's what's beyond that. And I'm really excited to build on some terrific foundations. The people you work with in the outdoors, you all know it, they are terrific people. They are passionate people, they care, they sacrifice, they do get down to the nitty-gritty and work hard together and build those collaborations. And you two are great examples of that, as well as your organizations. So thank you both. Now that we've looked at the big picture, we've looked at global, we've looked at national, thinking about our political will and what we can do and why that matters. We've looked at the state of Colorado, what we're doing there, some terrific things. I'm very grateful to be involved in some of those. Now it's time to turn our attention right here to the Pikes Peak region. And I know you guys were enjoying yourselves very much earlier, and you missed, we had a slideshow going in this room, but you'll see it again at the end. But we have a ton of updates, sharing what our special assets are in this Pikes Peak region, some of the challenges that we have, and updates from our land managers on the cool things that are happening. That's also on our website, and you've got a QR code on the table we'll direct you to, so you'll get all of that. But my role now, my job now, is to turn your attention to just some highlights. And time will not allow me to go into as much depth as I'd like, and I have to tell you, I kept cutting out slides. So in some of these slides, I'm not even going to go through all of the information, but there's so much happening, so many things I want to draw your attention to. But we're going to start with, celebrating. Let's think about some of the wins, some of the things that are happening right now that we can get excited about. Let's talk about tourism, our visitation. Our visitation numbers have grown significantly. So our 2022 numbers, we had 24 visitors to Colorado Springs and the Pikes Peak region. 2023, that went up by 800,000 people. That's a lot in 1 year. 24.8 million is what our visitors are. And what do you think they want to do more than anything else? They want to play outside. That is the #1 activity of our visitors. As far as reasons to come, the #1 is visiting friends and family. Second to that is touring. We know the outdoors is part of that. And the third is our outdoors. It's a driver, as Tim said earlier, it's a driver for people certainly to come and bring their businesses. Talent is looking for places where they want to live, where they can work, and our visitation is part of that. I love Doug Price's quote where he says, "Today's tourist is tomorrow's talent." And I think that's a great thing to keep in mind when we see these numbers. This is a huge economic driver for us. And so I think it's something for us to celebrate. And 75% of the folks coming are repeat visitors. They've not just come once, they've come again. So that's one thing to celebrate. We'll talk about how that's challenging too in a minute. Conservation gains. There are so many things we could head into here, a number of things going on, but I want to highlight just a few things. Really excited that we passed an extension of our TOPS tax, our Trails, Open Space, and Parks for Colorado Springs for another 20 years. That's something to celebrate. And you know, a lot of that credit to the Trails, Open Space, Trails and Open Space Coalition. Susan, I don't know where you are. Thank you for all your hard work and your organization's work in getting that done, along with Trust for Public Land. All right, also here, Woodland Park just acquired their 3rd open space. So they just tripled their open space. That's pretty exciting. Palmer Land Conservancy has produced this amazing film, Marisol. How many of you have seen it? That's awesome. The rest of you need to see it. There are still some opportunities, and their booth is in the other room. You'll see that later to check it out. But the focus on this is on our local growers, on our agriculture, on multi-generational industry that is really central to Colorado. Would love to have you learn more about that. And the one at the bottom, that's part of our Outdoor Pikes Peak initiative, our regional coalition that Jackie talked about. Our regional partnership. One of the things we're working on there is a Pikes Peak conservation summary. It's customized for our area with some terrific biodiversity information so that we can really focus in on the areas where we need to double down on conservation. All right, I'm going way too slow. So, forest health and wildfire prevention. Some key things here to focus on. If you weren't here at last year's State of the Outdoors, you missed a great presentation from the Forest Service, our local Forest Service, on the wildfire crisis strategy. So if you have not heard about it, the WCS, we're kind of in the middle of it. It's a 10-year process. It's across the nation, but our Front Range was identified as an area with serious risk. And so we are doubling down, and our Forest Service is working hard. This is their #1 priority, is to really work on forest health and wildfire mitigation. The second thing there, this is a part of that, is the establishment of the Central Colorado Forest Collaborative. This is beyond the Forest Service. This includes Colorado Springs Utilities, Colorado Springs Fire Departments, up and down the range, or the Front Range. We've got other partners who are a part of this collaborative. We've got industry and outdoor conservation groups and recreation that is also a part of that collaborative to really lean in together, leverage funding, and really make a difference in this effort. A couple of things you might have seen. We've already seen some prescribed burns. We've already seen some mechanical treatments. Monument is one that you might be familiar with. There is more to come. One of the big things you can help with is helping your neighbors understand why this is important. It's not that wildfire is bad. Natural wildfire, when it's a certain level, is great. But devastating wildfires, we know what happens, don't we? This community is very well aware of that. So make your voice heard in helping with that. All right. Next is some stewardship gains. So some of these stewardship gains, I'm just going to highlight real quickly. We have a problem with our recreational shooting that has gotten out of control over the last several years. You guys know that we've had community meetings. The Forest Service, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and other partners have worked on the Southern Shooting Partnership. There's actually an EA, environmental analysis, out right now with the Forest Service to talk about what they're doing about that. But one great thing, this Friends group came together, the Friends of Old Stage and Gold Camp Roads. They've been working on replacing signs once they get shot up. They've been working on cleanups. They've been working on law enforcement that can double up and work together. The Broadmoor is a part of that, and we're actually seeing progress. This last year, we really saw a difference, and I think it helps when people don't see shot up signs, but when they get replaced, it's expensive, but it makes a difference. So that's a great gain. Focus on the Forest is a great partner of our local Forest Service. And one of the things that I love hearing about is we're making such a difference. They have so many volunteers. They're having to find new areas to go to because places that are getting cleaned up are starting to stay cleaned up. So that is a great thing. And then Creek Week. How many of you have participated in Creek Week before? That is an awesome effort. Fountain Creek Watershed and the City of Colorado Springs partnering up. We've been a part of the Litter Letter Project for a number of years. And we've seen more and more people come out to clean up our waterways. And really excited about that. That's this fall, so be sure and get involved. Outdoors for All. Some great strides have been made here as well. So Colorado Parks and Wildlife has the Outdoor Equity Grant Program, and 2 organizations were awarded this last year here in our local community in Southern Colorado. So they are reaching out and making a difference with communities that don't feel welcome or have barriers in getting to the outdoors. So that's really exciting. And we're seeing that fund grow. We're seeing more and more emphasis there. We also are seeing some more trailability track programs for chairs, really providing access for people with all abilities. We're seeing that at Cheyenne Mountain State Park, El Paso County, Colorado Springs. We're also seeing parks and playgrounds that are becoming more accessible in their design, and it's just a really exciting thing that we're seeing that effort. If you went back to the tourism numbers, one thing that we've noticed is that we are significantly higher in people with disabilities in our area than the national average. There's a lot of folks here, and we need to provide for that. One other thing, the Visit Colorado Springs, on their website, they are a partner with Wheel the World, so they're helping people with disabilities know where they can go, what hotels, lodging, attractions will have accessibility for them. We've also highlighted it on our website, pikespeakoutdoors.org, a number of places people can go, partners that have resources, etc. So that's been exciting to see. Okay, that's the good news. So lots of things to celebrate, and like I said, I just highlighted a few of them. There's so much more that we can talk about, but those are just a few things. But now I want to talk about, we've got some challenges. We've got some threats, and it's not just here locally. I mean, we heard about some of the things on the national stage, having our voice heard as an outdoor community. We know as a statewide effort, some of the things I'm going to share are really across the state. In lots of places we have some of these challenges, but we're going to focus in on some of them. And first, before we do, I have a question for you that I'm going to pose. What if we lost Pikes Peak? Okay, I know it sounds like a crazy question. Nobody's going to come across and hack it off at the knees and go carry it off, right? It's a mountain. But I want you to think broader than that. And I don't want you to think just about Pikes Peak, but our outdoors, the places that in this community, in this region, are so very important to us. Nobody is coming through and doing that, but you can lose things in a lot of different ways, right? We can lose what's very special about it. We can lose our ability to enjoy it. Some people have lost that ability to enjoy it. So there is a lot at stake when you think about these issues that we're going to be addressing here today. A few years ago, the Forest Service launched a campaign called It's All Yours. Anybody see that video series? It was inspiring. I really loved it. There was also a movement that's kind of still going on about public lands being ours. I have a t-shirt that says public land owner. Mm-hmm. And I love that, and I wear it proudly because our public lands are valuable to all of us. But the focus on that has really been largely on how our lands and waterways are ours to enjoy. They're not wrong, but there's so much more. Stewardship is a key to maintaining what we love. And stewardship is not just picking up trash. I'm not really just talking about that. Actually, I looked up a dictionary definition of stewardship, and it is the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. I think about that with our outdoors. It means so much more than picking up the trash, making sure we behave responsibly is important in the outdoors, but it also speaks to protecting, to planning for its use, and to planning for the future and thinking about its future. So let's lean in to some of these key things. Unprecedented growth. We already know about our growth, right? We've been seeing it. We've been experiencing it. We've been experiencing it outdoors. We've been experiencing it in town. We've been experiencing it in our areas of government. We're seeing growth. This article came out in the Gazette in November, and it was a really good article, and I really enjoyed it. It was focused on the growth that's expected. This area is supposed to reach 1 million people by 2049. It's actually, the demographers are moving it up a little bit, so it's getting sooner and sooner that we're going to have that many people here. It's hard for us to understand that. And the article went on to really talk about smart growth principles. How do we grow responsibly? How do we think about these things and plan for it? We talked about things in the article such as water. We talked about our infrastructure such as our roads, or how people travel from place to place. We talked about development. How do we choose where development happens, how development happens? How do we create opportunities for all of the people that are coming? So there's a lot of conversation about smart growth. But you know what? And they're in that the image over there, a lot of the different things that people would bring up. But I feel like this article made a glaring error. The only time that it talked about our outdoors was as a beautiful backdrop. Our outdoors is a beautiful backdrop, and all of this growth and all of this activity and this smart growth planning happens in the city. And I think that's a huge error, because the people that are coming, if you think that they're going to stop at the edge of the city, and they're just going to stay there, and they're just going to make, enjoy and live and experience things within the confines of the urban center, I think that's sorely mistaken. They're coming here largely because of the outdoors. They're going to go out in the outdoors. We want them to experience the outdoors. We want them to get that taste, right? But it is an issue because we are not planning smartly for that growth that's happening in our outdoors, and we really need to focus in and lean in on that as a community and prioritize it. Because we are way behind, and we are embarrassingly under-resourced to address today's outdoor issues, let alone plan for tomorrow and the next 20 years as we race towards 1 million people. So we're going to look at some of these threats in a little bit more detail. Our natural resources and our wildlife. And again, just picking out a few things. Wildfire, we talked about the good thing. There's a lot of effort happening there. But you know what? We still have careless people. The Forest Service sent out a release and told us that we had 132 unattended campfires by mid-July in our area. That is ridiculous. That means people are not getting it. They don't understand the risk, and they're not changing their behavior. That's huge. The next thing there is our community's understanding. I think we have a long ways to go on our community and understanding our outdoors and how vital it is to the fabric of who we are and to our future. And TOPS, I mentioned TOPS got extended, and I'm really excited about that, but the increase failed. We couldn't get more into that. So we have a ways to go in people understanding why our open spaces are so crucial. The next one below there is our tourists. Our tourists are not paying their fair share. So there is a sales tax, but ours is ridiculously low across communities that are our size, and we need to increase that. So we're going to be looking at a large increase at some point. But our community right now in the polling, they don't get it. They don't know it's a tourist tax. They don't understand it. But our tourists need to pay for maintaining those things that we all enjoy because they're enjoying them as well. So we need to have them involved in that. We've had some challenges with some of the planning that's happened. The community is not understanding what's really at stake if we don't acquire open space, if we don't plan for it well. How does that affect our natural resources? So I think there's a lot to be done with helping our community understand. And I'm not going to go into the last one, but I did put it up there because ballot box biology, really bad idea. And it's not just happening in Colorado, that is happening across the nation. So there are better ways to manage our wildlife. Inadequate infrastructure. So our infrastructure, I love that you talked about this, Luis, because it's so key. And I think the people in this room largely understand our trails are largely an outdoor infrastructure. It's how people get from one place to another. That happens in our urban core, and it happens in our outdoor open spaces, parks, and our forest. And we need to double down on what we're doing with our trail connectivity. Through the Outdoor Pikes Peak initiative, yeah, sorry, the Y drop there on connectivity. One of the key things that we found out of our public process was connectivity was a real value of this community. They really want to connect communities to other communities, communities to trails, to parks, to our outdoor assets. So that really is something that's really important. And then I have a quote there from our former mayor that just talks about how it's problematic if we don't double down on infrastructure. And I know he wasn't talking about the outdoors, but we are. The two things there, you got a little shuttle and tickets. Some of the things we have to do is innovate. And I love it, you talked about innovation. Innovation is key here too. These problems are only going to be solved by us thinking outside the box. So we really need to lean into that a little bit. Inadequate opportunities and growing conflicts. Okay, I just lumped all of these on one slide. And there's so many more we could go into, but some of these things, we've got the haves and the have-nots, and that goes across the board. We've got communities that are getting all the use, and we have other communities that are like, hey, send them my way. We would love to have the outdoors be an economic driver for us. So we've got some haves and have-nots. We've got people groups that are haves and have-nots, right? People that are traditionally in the outdoors and people that are not traditionally in the outdoors and don't feel welcome there. So thankfully we've got some groups that are reaching out to those folks, but that means all of us when we're outdoors as well. We've also got user groups. Some are getting more amenities, getting more of the assets that meet their needs, and others are not. So there's a lot of inequities in the outdoors. The next thing I have here is access challenges. There are a lot of access challenges. Luis mentioned some of the things for some folks, and that is permits. Outdoor businesses have some real challenges in access, but there are other kinds of access as well. So that's a real big issue. User conflicts, I don't think I even really need to talk about that. More people, volume of people wanting to enjoy the outdoors the way that they're used to enjoying it. We have to be innovative and plan a little bit differently to accommodate, and we have to disperse use as well. Wildlife and people conflicts, that's another one. We know we're seeing that. We're seeing that here. You know, I grew up in Colorado and I never saw a moose as a youngster. I see a lot of moose almost every time I'm out there now. We've got bears in our neighborhood that we never had in our neighborhood. So the WUI is expanding, right? The wildland urban interface, and we're seeing wildlife here, and then we're also out where the wildlife are. So we're seeing a number of things there. Move on to the next thing. The management gap. We have a management gap that is growing. It's getting bigger. And I picked out, sorry, Colorado Springs and Forest Service, I'm picking on you, I know. But this is because our managers are under-resourced. So these are some real glaring examples. With Colorado Springs Parks, our backlog of deferred maintenance is $279 million. That was in 2020. I bet, Britt, it's gone up since then. And this is our backlog. So as we're planning new parks and we're getting these new open spaces, how long do you think it will take? We've got to balance those priorities. We've got things that are crumbling and we've got new things that we need to address. That's a real challenge. We've seen a budget cut also, 3.4%. I am so grateful though that it was an across the board budget cut, because how many of you were here when that was not the case and parks took the hit? Right? And we didn't have lights, and we didn't have, it was a huge problem. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful we're not Denver, that is robbing from the Parks Department to serve other purposes. But it's still a budget cut. So there's just a big gap there. The Forest Service, some other big things, and on the right-hand side, you'll see it's all of our federal partners. It's not just the Forest Service, it's the BLM, it's Park Service. Even the Land Water Conservation Fund, I didn't know they could do this, but they are reallocating funds from the LWCF, and it's not going to the outdoors. So this is the 2024 budget that just got passed a few months ago. Here in our Pikes Peak region, our ranger district has 230,000 acres to monitor. We have 225,000 miles of trail. I can't see it, I think that's what I put over there. But we have 2.5 law enforcement officers. And we have one of them right here, Earl Huey. So we're so grateful for the ones that we have, that, oh my gosh, you guys, 230,000 acres. They can't possibly do the job. This is an impossible job. All of these things that we talked about, all of these things come to a management and funding crisis. And I have to say this because I feel like sometimes we're sticking our head in the sand and we don't realize this is a real problem. And this growth is just going to overwhelm us if we don't work together and try to solve these problems. And it's going to take a lot. It's going to take everybody in this room and all your friends and neighbors to really make a difference. Let me reiterate, we are way behind and embarrassingly under-resourced to address today's outdoor issues, let alone plan for tomorrow and the next 20 years as we race towards 1 million people. Clearly, business as usual, it's not working. We have a significant and growing management resource gap. Doing things as we've always done them, it's not going to bring different results. We all know what that means, right? If you don't change anything, results aren't going to change. And our region needs some investment. It needs investment into the future. Or we're not going to be taking care of our residents today or for tomorrow. This is why I say we could lose Pikes Peak. This is the issue here. We could lose what's really special about our outdoors. But there's good news. The good news is we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to roll up our sleeves, do the hard work, say goodbye to our sacred cows and egos, and make change happen. We need to innovate. We need to think outside the box on tackling the management and resource gap. And the good news is that we see a possible way forward for doing just that. Through the Outdoor Pikes Peak Initiative, OPI, we have identified key strategies, action items, and projects for the next 10 years, including innovation and an innovative approach to expanding our people and recreation management capacity. Friends, we are a resilient, innovative, I like saying that word a lot, and we've heard that a lot today, but it's true. We've got to think outside the box. Future-focused community, and when we put our minds to it and work together, great things happen. We can climb to higher ground, and the view of the future we create together is amazing. Now I'd like to introduce Bonnie Goff, PPORA's Board Secretary. Thank you.